Welcome to TechTalks, a podcast about technology that transforms the future. My name is Linda Ekwall, and the topic for today's conversation is how to engineer the industry of tomorrow. In what way can industrial processes support the transformation to a low-carbon society? Is digitalization the key to this? And what is the perfect mix of automation and human interface with ergonomics in mind? These are some of the questions we will look into today. So, with me here in the studio, I have four experts. So let me introduce them. I have Frida Graf, a senior ergonomics specialist, Jeremy Goossens, who is a product manager and expert in digital twin technology, Bjorn Leempoels, VP Marketing and Sales, also working with remote monitoring and connectivity, and Marco Mele, an industrial engineering manager with years of experience from manufacturing. So thank you all for joining me here today. Let's start with the first question. If you come up with one word that defines the industry of tomorrow, what would that be and why? Anyone who wants to start?
I can start. The word that comes to mind for me is disruption. Mm-hmm. I think we see more and more technology being implemented, invented, adopted, and this is creating a big change in the industry, also in terms of expectations from our customers. Mm-hmm. Everything is moving much more quicker, everything is being digitalized, automated. This disruption coming from general expectations is also enforcing us to play along and adopt this technology and move forward. So I think disruption is a key part.
Okay.
Convenience, actually. So convenience, why? Because customers are seeking for convenience. Basically, if AI, the engine, can take different data sources from weather forecast, ERP data, smart link or connectivity platform, takes all this data and can suggest recommendations to the customers, can give suggestions how we can increase his uptime and reduce the downtime. This is really creating value for the customer. So convenience certainly is key.
Yeah. Frida?
Yes, and one word that comes to mind for me is sustainability. And I think it's very important, not that all industries need to contribute to reduce the CO2 emissions, but it's also very important for the work environment and also organizations to find sustainable solutions for the future.
Yeah, good.
That's my turn now. My word is connected. Connected in the meaning of, I would say that we can think of our processes sometimes more like an archipelagos. So the word there means to build these bridges between these islands of data, information, processes. And in this way, we could benefit altogether to access to this information without having the burden to know where and how. So connecting is definitely the key for the future.
Good.
If I can add maybe, because when you talk about connected, convenience, disruption, I think it all goes together with sustainability as well. Because everything is changing so quickly and everything needs to be connected, all of this intelligence comes together, it's making it also very complicated, not only to ourselves, but also to our customers. So I think that's why the convenience part comes into. The people, it's so much, it's evolving so quickly, so they need a helping hand also from partners like ourselves to help them on this journey to adopt this new technology to make life easy. And that's I think also what technology is developed for. It's there to facilitate, to help. So I think, all of those come together here.
And I also would like to understand in which way the disruptive and sustainability come together. Why? Because I think the sustainability is not just a matter of the environmental sustainability, like the easy way that we usually talk every day, but it's also a matter of sustainable processes that whatever we think today, we have to build that with the mind of tomorrow. because we know that some kind of technology will evolve faster than we think. At least will become faster and faster, this kind of evolution. And being sustainable in terms of also starting something that we don't have to replace in a short time. So something that would be easy, simple, modular to arrive to the solution that eventually we need in the very moment. So these two things eventually these 3 and 4 things actually is definitely part of the Zone Globe.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have a question for you, Jeremy.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what digital twin technology is and in what type of role it plays in this development moving forward?
Yeah, so digital twin is a very broad term, but typically, as the word describes it, is ensuring that you have a digital copy of something. Yeah? So can be digital, can be virtual, but can relate to processes, can relate to products. If we look at, for example, a product which is being developed, engineering specifies technical capabilities, a bill of material, procedures for assembly. The machine goes into production and then is born or created. But that from that moment on, it somehow creates like a digital passport. You know, okay, this machine was produced then on this production line by with these and these options. It is going to the field for this customer, and with connectivity technology, we can also track the performance of that machine, track its life cycle, when it had maintenance, how it is performing compared to peers, if there are any failures or those kind of things. So it's really interesting because it also allows us to share that data with multiple stakeholders. You have the customer from his point of view, of course, who is very interested in knowing how his machine is doing, what is the history. But from an OEM point of view, it's also important that we know if the machines that we are producing and are manufacturing, if they are also used to the optimal conditions. So a machine in the field is not always behaving like in a lab. So we want to know where is the difference. Should we adapt? Should we inform the customer, give him recommendations, maybe swap a machine, change to something else? Or maybe it's input to create new products, new solutions, like pockets or niches that we can develop new solutions for. So that's, in a broad sense, what digital twins are about.
Okay. But then I will move over to you, Frida. I guess you also use data for what you are doing, but you are then a specialist in industrial ergonomics. How do you see the role of people in the factory in the future?
Well, I think and I also hope that the heaviest and most repetitive tasks within manufacturing, that they will be handled more by machines and automation in the future. And these are also the tasks that are causing the most work-related injuries. So there is a need to move away from those kind of tasks anyways. And we can also see that with an increasing age in the population, we also have aging people in production and in work in manufacturing environments. So, and some of the tasks today, they are too heavy to handle for that part of the work population. So there is a need to automate some parts of these work tasks.
Do you see any cases where we can build on existing research that we already done in terms of ergonomics and automation?
Yes, here in Atlas Copco, we've been working for many, many years within the field of ergonomics. And a lot of the factors that improve the ergonomics for humans also improve for automation. So one example is vibrations that can affect humans in a negative way. But it can also affect technology and sensors and other type of machines and robots negatively. So reducing vibrations, which we have been doing for many, many years, and we have put a lot of research and efforts into doing that, that will also benefit automation for the future. And we can also see that other things that we work with, for example, reducing weight and reducing loads on the operators, that is also something that will benefit for automation, like smaller robots. They can only handle lower loads and lower weights. So everything that we do for ergonomics will also benefit for automation in the future.
This was new to me, that you use it for the same purpose, but on robots, as you say. But I think it's really interesting. What would you say are the skills and competences that employees in the factories will need to develop to stay ahead in the future?
For the more automation we see in factories, of course, more technical skills will be more and more important to handle these type of equipments. But I also think that it's very important to have a positive mindset. And I think we are in a very exciting time with lots of new things coming our way. So I think it will be, we all will have to adapt in some ways to this development and the technology that is coming. But also people will always be needed when the processes cannot be followed. That is where people are very creative and flexible and can step up when technology
there is no ideal word. We work definitely in a very, in a not perfect world. And if we look at the operations in general, we know that the thing is a daily. So there is always something that is not what we're expecting, because we cannot consider all the different kind of variation and variables that can affect a process. So I'm with you when you say that. So we definitely need to know how to react to this variation, because if we assume that everything is perfect, we will not go anywhere.
Yeah, but I think also if you think about these ecosystems and interconnected stakeholders, data, everything, it also allows you to have more of an outside-in type of approach. Whereas in traditional manufacturing, old type of manufacturing, everything is very in versus out. You create a product, you develop a product, you have a spec sheet, you go to the customer, and this is your offering. Whereas within an ecosystem, you see also what is happening. What is the utilization of your customer? What do they expect from you? What are they doing with your equipment? And then you can adapt to it. So I think, this ecosystem setup is changing how we are interacting with customers. The customer is becoming more of a decisive factor in that. We should adapt our processes and products and solutions to them and not the other way around. And that is, I think, one of the key takeaways of this technology. It enables us to do that.
So the supply chain really must be a chain.
Yeah.
So where each of the ring there matter because it will affect the other. If one of these breaks, eventually everything will stop. So,
And I think this goes back to your word, Frida, with sustainability, that we need to be more sustainable. Everyone knows that, but this can also make us become more sustainable, because we look at, as you say, we go outside in instead of inside out. So we can prepare the right products for the right customer, but we can also make sure that our people and our robots are managed in a good way, so they will become sustainable and stay for a long time. But then, Bjorn, you work with uptime, right? Please explain how big data and AI can safeguard operations in modern manufacturing processes.
We are focused a lot on uptime and increasing productivity of our customers. And so then we have a lot of data sources, weather forecast, ERP data, SmartLink, our connectivity solution, but also FleetLink, RentalLink. So from the different business areas, so we have all these connectivity devices uploading tons of information about the machine. And then we compare a bit, speaking again about the digital twin. So comparing what is a physical model, but the actual behavior of the machines. And so with these models, with AI models, we predict basically when we will have a failure. So it comes down again on this predictivity. And we predict when we see a possible occurrence happening in the near future or in the long future. So then we suggest recommendations to the customer, but also internally. So customers which are on an uptime guarantee contract, for example, we are committing. And we will make sure that the machine will be up and running all the time, maximum of the time. So basically, we are scheduling our technicians, our operations in such that we guarantee and we ensure that the uptime is right, basically, of the customer. So yes, we have our diagnostic center, which is powered by the AI models. So we handle today 3,000 tickets a month. So it's used by Power Technique and Compressor Technique. So yeah, and this ticketing is feeding our operations in a very proactive way, in a prescriptive way, basically. So we will go and do what we need to do on site to increase the uptime of our customers. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it goes further even at Compressor Technique, avoiding even failures and downtime.
Exactly.
In many cases, the customer is not even aware that a breakdown could have occurred. It's already prevented before it happens. So again, pushing on that convenience for the customers, I think it's key.
It's a nice service you're offering there.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you then say also that our sales offering have changed with this type of data that we have today?
Due to the connectivity, due to the AI models, diagnostic services, we can be very proud to tell that we have an uptime guarantee contract, for example, service contract type. So where we guarantee a certain availability. And we do everything what we can. And so this is only possible by bringing all the different tools together. And we can be proud because no one else at the moment in the industry can offer this. So this is a fantastic service offering which creates the value, and the value for the customer is uptime. So he doesn't want a failure or a machine which is in breakdown. So that's key. Another possibility is also our pay for the use, for example, another type of contract. So it is also powered by all the different sets of components, like the AI.
So like a rental setup then, or?
Type of rental, but then a fixed environment, basically.
Okay.
Slightly different than the rental. Rental is more temporary, temporary setup where the airplane is basically pay for the use. It's like Netflix, so you pay as per the use.
Yeah. Is it also so then that instead of having the customer coming to you asking for something, you might suggest it because you already know the data, that they might need a new machine, or they might would benefit from having something else?
Yeah, exactly. So what we do, so with the AI, the models, we can see, for example, if a machine is not running in the correct way. So where we can then suggest, dear customer, you don't need a fixed speed machine, but you need a variable speed drive, for example. So this is generating leads for equipment to basically to improve the situation on site. Or if we have too many start and stops, so that's also an indication that the machine is not correctly sized or not as per the purpose. So there we can also advise customers to change. Another type of recommendations we do is for mineral oil versus synthetic oil. In some countries, the behavior of the machine, the running conditions, it's better to use synthetic oil versus mineral oil. So these kind of recommendations we come, and this is feeding basically our SmartLink platform, our FleetLink. So where we suggest and recommend customers how to take it forward.
So it's more like a partnership now.
Yeah, exactly. So it brings really, this AI brings the customer closer, this convenience again. So he can do proper asset management in our platform. Customer can see the behavior of the machines, can be suggested with recommendations how to improve his uptime. So all this fully automated and drives really value for the customer.
So now we have painted a picture of technology and innovations for the future, and how we will drive the industry of tomorrow. Are there any risk related to security or ethical concerns that we need to take into consideration? And if so, how do we mitigate those?
The security can be managed, and there are already, I think, today all the tools and the system to do so. So it's only a matter to be updated, to be always there for the specific cause.
Yeah,
Right.
sorry, go ahead.
I think the risk is not to onboard AI. So I think we as a company, we need to embrace AI as a tool to support our customers, to support our operations, our sales processes. So I think it's an opportunity, in my opinion, rather than a risk. So for me, I think we should really embrace AI and use it in all sorts of different departments where we can really bring value for our stakeholders.
And I think in general, risk is always present in business, has always been. We are evolving into new technology, and that always comes with certain hurdles, learnings, but those are similar for everybody. Everybody in the industry is facing the same challenges. So, as Marco said, we cannot afford to not take this step. So we have to. And like all of our peers, we are forced to look into how we can do it in a secure way and as efficient way. Now, okay, all of this data is captured, centralized, and made available. But in the past, people would also steal trade documents from a cabinet, and I mean that happened as well. So I think it's just the environment is a little bit changed, but the risks are the same.
Yeah, and then I guess also the one risk would be that having one person knowing all the information instead of capturing the data and feeding it into the system. I know that you have been talking about this, Marco.
The thing is that, I mean, we don't want the information and data just stay in people's brain. I mean, because we need to liberate this, because we don't, for example, we won't buy the best laptop on the market because he got a 2 terabyte hard disk. We do that for the power, for the efficiency that can bring to our work. So the same thing, that we don't have to use the employer's mind like a cabinet where to store information. So we need to work on how to manage and process those information. So let's take this out. Let's embed this data in the system. Let's make them as accessible to everybody so the whole organization can benefit. And let's work again on the processes. So let's work on how to do that. Let's work on how to make them more efficient and so on.
So it should be very clear that there is a clear data privacy. We take that very seriously, and there is no, we do everything we can, or we do everything needed to safeguard that the data is protected.
Yeah. One question then is, I mean, if you have a mobile phone, you can always find it because you can add that into the system that I want to find my phone. Is that the same thing for our machine? And is that then something, I mean, maybe not all customers want to be connected. Could they say, please don't connect me?
Yeah, but I think customer always has freedom of choice, and we are never there to dictate what a customer should do. We are just trying to facilitate, bring value. Again, this transparency and trust. But if a customer says, no, I don't want this service, I don't want this machine to be monitored, I don't want to look at possible improvements or recommendations, can be switched off.
Yeah,
I think if you look 2 years back, where we were at that time, basically we were in a situation that we were showing the data on the screen. Today, where we are today with the smart recommendations, with the AI, we bring so much value that the balance between the value creations versus connecting or not, I think it's a no-brainer. So you need connected units to have that value coming back. So and then get all the recommendations. So I think this is today the balance, but it's shifting really to the value and connecting the units.
But can we then disconnect the product?
Yes.
Can we also turn it off?
Yes.
So if it's standing at a place with a customer, can we go in and turn off their
Yes.
product? Yeah.
Yeah,
If
the
they ask us.
the connectivity device, indeed,
Yeah.
we can switch off, indeed. So we can disconnect the unit to be transmitting data. So that's possible. But we cannot, if it's connected, we cannot switch off the machine from distance.
No.
So that's to be very clear that
Yes.
because that's of course a risk.
Yeah.
And that's very clear that we don't want to go in that direction.
No.
So we don't switch, or we cannot switch off the machines from distance.
No. I guess something that might scare some people is that what will happen in the future? We will still have employees working, or will it be more robots working there? How do you see that? Will we continue as we are today? Will we increase the workforce? Will we decrease it? What do you think?
I don't see a negative side on this. I think the world has always evolved. We used to ride horses, and people would say, yeah, but what about all of these horses? What are we going to do with them? Okay, today everybody drives a car and we still have horses. So I think it's just about, society evolves, technology evolves. Let's not forget, 30 years ago, we didn't have internet. Imagine that. We survived. So I think it will be the same thing with AI. It will create some adaptation. You will need to reskill, learn about the technology, how to implement it, but it will be all for the better.
But I also think that we are all in an interesting era right now, and there will be a lot of changes coming our way. So I think also positive and curious mindset will be very important for all of us, because we will all have to adapt in some way.
Yeah. And that wraps up today's episode on how to engineer the industry of tomorrow. In the coming episode, we will continue to explore different technologies needed to transform the future. If you are interested in knowing more already now, well, visit atlascopcogroup.com. But before I say goodbye, I would like to thank you, Frida, Jeremy, Bjorn, and Marco, for joining me here in the studio today. And then an extra big thank you to all you listeners out there. Take care and see you soon again.